You are standing on a warm land, a place that will one day be called the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. There are no cities, no humans, only dense jungle, heavy humidity in the air, and massive creatures moving slowly through a world that seems unchanging. The ground trembles slightly beneath the steps of a giant herbivorous dinosaur. Leaves rustle. The air is hot, thick, almost tangible. In the sky above, flying creatures glide and cry out with strange sounds. Everything is alive. Everything is stable. Then something changes. If you were to look up at the sky in that moment, you would see a tiny point of light. It doesn't look like the sun, not like any star you've ever seen. And the terrifying part is, it's moving. Within seconds, that point of light grows. It becomes a streak of fire stretching across the blue sky. There is no sound, no warning, only light growing brighter and brighter. Have you ever imagined an object larger than a city heading straight toward you? That asteroid is about 10 to 12 kilometers wide. It's traveling at over 70,000 kilometers per hour. So fast that the air in front of it compresses, heats up, and glows like a second sun. You still don't hear anything, because it's moving faster than sound. There is no time to think, no chance to react. The moment it hits Earth, everything disappears. A flash erupts, so bright it erases all images. Temperatures at the impact site rise to tens of thousands of degrees Celsius in an instant. Rock doesn't just melt, it vaporizes. The ground is torn apart as if the planet itself has been pierced. A massive crater begins to form, over 180 kilometers wide and tens of kilometers deep. The entire region where you stand ceases to exist. The air pressure compresses, then explodes. A shockwave spreads at supersonic speed. You don't hear it coming. It engulfs you before you can even realize it. Within thousands of kilometers, everything is incinerated. Forests ignite. The air becomes hot enough to burn skin in seconds. Living creatures have no chance. But that's only the first second. You think it's over? No. This is just the beginning of something far worse. This impact releases energy equivalent to over 100 million megatons of TNT, billions of times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. The ground shakes violently. Earthquakes spread across the planet, strong enough to fracture the very structure of the Earth. Far away, the oceans begin to react. Seawater is pushed upward, forming massive walls of water. Tsunamis hundreds of meters high surge outward at terrifying speeds. Not a single wave, an entire ocean in motion. Can you imagine a wall of water taller than a skyscraper crashing onto land? These waves erase everything. Forests, rocks, living beings. Everything is swept away as if it never existed. But something even worse is still coming. Billions of tons of rock and debris are blasted into the sky. Some escape into space. Some begin to fall back. And when they return, the sky turns into hell. Millions of red-hot fragments streak through the atmosphere. Friction ignites them, turning the sky into a global rain of fire. There is nowhere safe. You look up and see thousands of blazing trails falling at once, not shooting stars, millions of them. Forests begin to burn, grasslands ignite. Fire spreads rapidly, fueled by hot, dry air. Surface temperatures rise like a massive furnace. You breathe and feel the air burning your lungs. You think you could hide underground? Maybe, for a short time. But the sky is not finished yet. Dust, ash, and sulfur gases spread across the planet. They block out sunlight, not just in one region, but globally. The light disappears. Day becomes twilight, then darkness. Do you realize what's happening? No sunlight, no photosynthesis. Plants begin to die. And when plants die, everything above them begins to collapse. Herbivorous dinosaurs, needing hundreds of kilograms of vegetation each day, begin to starve. They move, searching, but there is nothing left. Their massive bodies become a burden. Then come the predators, A Tyrannosaurus Rex walks across the scorched land. It was once the ruler, but now it weakens. There is no easy prey, no stable ecosystem. Have you ever thought a dominant species could collapse this quickly? But it still doesn't end. Global temperatures begin to drop dramatically. Some estimates suggest a drop of more than 20 degrees Celsius. Regions once warm turn cold. Acid rain begins to fall. Water carries sulfur and toxic compounds. Soil is altered. Water sources become contaminated. The oceans change as well. Rising CO2 and sulfur levels make seawater more acidic. Plankton die in massive numbers. And when the foundation of the marine food chain disappears, the entire ocean ecosystem begins to collapse. Do you realize the scale of what's happening? This is not just a disaster. This is a complete restructuring of the planet. About 75% of all species on Earth vanish, not decline, vanish entirely. And it all begins with a single moment, flying so low that people on the ground could clearly see the pilots' faces. Machine gun fire ripped through the air, tearing into rows of parked aircraft lined up like pre-drawn targets. An entire line of planes was consumed in flames within seconds. On a battleship, a sailor ran onto the deck with his shirt still unbuttoned. He saw flames erupt ahead, then a second explosion. The air trembled. His ears rang. Everything seemed to slow down. He didn't understand what was happening. And that was the most terrifying part. Not the explosions, not the fire, but the silence before it, when no one knew what was coming. Within minutes, the entire naval base was awakened by violence. The alarm finally sounded, but by then it was too late. Anti-aircraft guns began to turn, but many were still locked. Ammunition hadn't been distributed. Some storage rooms were still sealed. Nothing was ready for war, but war had arrived. Above, Japanese pilots flew in perfect formation. They did not hesitate. Every target had been memorized in advance. Every ship, every runway, every position had been calculated. They did not attack randomly. They struck the heart. A torpedo plunged into the water, skimming forward like a hunting predator. It slammed into a ship's hull. A deep, muffled explosion echoed from below the surface. Something those on deck couldn't see, but could feel through the violent vibrations. The ship tilted. Water surged in like an unstoppable flood. An officer shouted orders, but his voice was swallowed by a series of explosions. There were no clear commands anymore, only survival instinct. Some rushed to pull their comrades to safety. Some tried to open ammunition stores. Some stood frozen, unable to believe what was happening. In those first minutes, the chaos was more dangerous than the bombs. A group of sailors tried to rotate an anti-aircraft gun by hand. They didn't have time to wait for power. Their hands trembled, but they forced the barrel upward toward the sky. When the gun finally fired, the first shot missed completely, but they didn't stop. Shot after shot. Off target, then closer, then hit. A Japanese plane was struck, burst into flames, and crashed into the sea. Cheers erupted for a few brief seconds, a small spark of hope in a sea of fire. But immediately more planes appeared. Not a single wave, but multiple waves layered one upon another. The second wave arrived before the first had even ended. An armor-piercing bomb dropped onto a large ship. It tore through layers of steel before detonating inside. The explosion didn't just destroy, it ripped the ship apart from within, like a heart being crushed. Flames rose high enough to be seen for miles. Thick black smoke curled upward, covering the sky. Morning light turned into a fiery orange glow. On the water, oil spread and ignited, turning the sea into a mirror of fire. Those who fell into the water had to swim through flames. There was nowhere safe. A sailor clung to a piece of debris, surrounded by drifting patches of fire. He didn't dare move much, only trying to stay afloat. Each time a wave hit, the flames crept closer. No one had trained them for this. No one thought it could happen. Above, the planes continued circling like patient predators. They were in no hurry. They knew their targets below couldn't escape. One Japanese pilot dropped dangerously low, aiming straight at a line of ships. He pulled the trigger. Bullets streamed out like a continuous line of fire, sweeping across the deck. Sparks flew from metal, accompanied by sharp, dry impacts. On the ground, a group of soldiers finally broke open an ammunition storage. They passed crates from hand to hand so quickly their hands burned. No one spoke. There was no need. Everyone understood that if they were even a second too slow, there might not be another chance. A good thing is swept away as if it never existed.